Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday afternoon. Happy MLK Day here in the United States. And I see we already have some people in the audience, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into our topic. We are talking Star Trek movies, specifically ideas for what they should do with the next Star Trek movie. And if you are checking us out live, please chat away your ideas, and we can read any comments if you have like an idea for a Star Trek movie. But yeah, they're in kind of a unique situation right now, with CBS and Paramount kind of rejoined for the first time in a long time, and just like the sky's the limit. Viacom CBS could really just do whatever the hell they want to do for the next Star Trek movie. So I'm joined by PJ and Dom Paris.
Hello, I'm here to talk about movies. So yeah.
I was going to ask if either of you have an idea for a Star Trek movie that you think they should do for the next one, for the 14th film.
A sequel to Star Trek Generations, The Return of Soren.
Yeah, we're joined by Dr. Tolian Soren.
I come back from the dead somehow.
You kind of got beat up by two old men in that movie, and then died like an idiot when that rocket exploded in front of you. And you just had that look on your face like, oh.
All the more reason my character needs to be redeemed.
When does the Nexus actually return to the Unit Galaxy? Because isn't it like every 38 years or something?
Yeah, it's like not.
Every
I don't think it's
39
come back by the time of Star Trek Picard, which is 2399.
Yeah, so it would be back in 2410, so 11 years after Picard. So it's a possibility.
Yeah.
In the future that we could have Generations 2.
I'll be back.
Like if a copy of Guinan could live in there, why not a copy of Soren? Although I don't know if Mr. McDowell will want to return to that. He didn't seem very happy with the movie.
Oh.
No, I just didn't like William Shatner.
Yeah. He actually said that he didn't like the script, and the only reason why he took the job is he wanted to be the guy who killed Captain Kirk.
I mean, that's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be always infamous for that.
Yeah.
And I am so proud.
But then the question is, like, would a part of Kirk still be in the Nexus then? And would a part of Picard also be in the Nexus?
Yeah, so maybe Guinan was the only one who got lucky and got to like
stay,
have a copy in there that can just like conveniently show up to deliver exposition. Yeah. But I don't know.
It's a Nexus for the rest of us.
Nexus for the rest of us. Happy Festivus. There's some good stuff in Star Trek Generations, but if I'm being honest, that's actually my least favorite of all the Star Trek movies. I will take all of them? Yeah, I'll take Star Trek V and Star Trek Into Darkness over Generations.
Wow. I have a soft spot for Generations.
I should, because it came out when I was like really like getting deep into Star Trek, and it was part of what made me want to become a bigger Star Trek fan was when I saw like posters for like, oh, like the bald guy from the TV show, they're going to do movies with him. And they did all these movies with like Shatner and Nimoy, like then they have like these other shows. There's this new Voyager show and Deep Space Nine. Like there's this really big universe here, and I should really like explore all of it. But yeah, that I kind of just don't like the way that they kind of portray Kirk as kind of like selfish and like needed Picard to like get him out of the Nexus. I feel like Kirk should have been like a little bit more heroic. And there's some other stuff I dislike in there, but a lot of people really like it. People who like.
Well, would you like a Generations film set in the Kelvin timeline? As an idea.
That's an idea for the next movie. Yeah.
Whoever plays Kelvin Picard.
Yeah, I suggested Michael Fassbender. If you just shaved his head, would probably be like a good Picard. But
yeah,
I did my whole.
I think Brad Pitt should play me.
I don't know who would be like.
They should just bring Tom Hardy back.
I was quite the looker in my youth.
I wouldn't be opposed to Tom Hardy coming back to play like a younger
God, no.
Patrick Stewart, except he's such a weird actor these days. Like every role he's playing, like he can't just like talk normal. He kind of has like, the same thing that like Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro do, where like they have to talk in like a weird voice. And they're like they always have to play like some weirdo who has like a strange accent or something. Or like in Mad Max, where he's just kind of like barking, like this very like inhuman like animal noise type of voice. It was weird. Starfleet Boy is suggesting James McAvoy.
Yeah. I mean,
No.
yeah.
Is it wise to do anything else in the Kelvin universe in regards to film? I appreciated that there was a reference to it in Discovery to kind of cement the fact that yes, it's all a multiverse, it's all connected. But
yeah, because I really just like the trilogy which we have so far. I think Beyond is good and finishes it off well.
Yeah, it's a good place to stop.
I would say they don't need to do anything more with that Enterprise crew. They could just do a different story in the Kelvin universe. But yeah, it depends how the audience would view that, and if the general audience would get confused, or how they would play it out.
I think whatever they do for the next movie, because there will someday, be it in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, eventually be another Star Trek movie. It needs to be something that you couldn't do streaming on Paramount Plus. It needs to be something different, bigger scale, bigger budget. And Star Trek doesn't always work when they try to go when they try to make like big budget action movie Hollywood stuff. I mean, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But one idea that I was thinking of, I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but a few years ago when Enterprise got canceled, there was an idea for a trilogy of movies that would have been based on the Romulan War and would have actually finally filled in that gap and showed that story. So I think it would always be cool to do something like that. And then I had like another idea, like what if instead of the Romulan War, you made like these movies about the Cardassian War and made it take place like 20 years before TNG. You get like this 19-year-old Irish guy to play like young O'Brien, and you can like show like the massacre at Sutlik 3. You could explain like how like the tension with like the Cardassians eventually like led into war, and so you could have like some diplomatic stuff, and you could have like some good action set pieces, and you could kind of make that like a trilogy of movie. You could even have like young Picard, like de-aged Picard, show up on the Stargazer. This is like a cameo. I don't want it to be
cameo. Yeah,
I don't want it to be like
a cameo. That would be
still the show, still the spotlight. Make like your own characters, and you can do whatever you want with them.
That gives me an idea that I never even considered before. A movie about Kira Nerys, like a low budget.
Ooh.
I mean, like considerably low budget, like not like a non-risk. And if they make it and it's screened and it's like, no, this is actually good, put it in the theater. Fine. If they say like, okay, maybe this is for a niche audience, just put it right on Paramount Plus. Like make that decision afterwards. But when we talk about ideas for Star Trek movies, can we include, because times are changing, right? Like a lot of
TV specials.
But that's the thing. You have HBO Max with all these actual theatrical type movies coming out in the streaming service, and then you have Netflix with these like big budget movies coming out every week all year. Paramount Plus is going to have to compete with that by actually putting like 125 million in a movie and probably just putting it on their platform and not even, or doing like a same day release, limited release in theaters, just so it can apply for the Academy Awards somehow if it's actually really good. But I mean, I think it's all going to be like a streaming thing. I can't see Star Trek being a big theatrical event anytime soon. You know what I mean? Like they have to win back.
Well, I can't see anything being a big theatrical event anytime soon.
No, I mean I'm talking about like 5-6 years.
I know what you mean.
I don't even mean like this year or next, but Yeah.
That's the thing is with the Kelvin movies, they wanted to make like these big summer blockbuster movies that, and there's a lot I like in the Kelvin movies, but they wanted to spend like over $100 million on like these big budget movies, and you don't need that for a good Star Trek movie. Like you don't need like that huge CGI Yorktown station for a good Star Trek movie. So
It was cool,
I
though.
do kind of think
Cool.
it is cool. Yeah, it is cool, but I do wonder if they would make a little bit lower budget Star Trek movies if they might be more successful, because you're not going to get like $1 billion. You're not going to be able to pump out like $1 billion movie every year like Marvel or like Star Wars does. It's just like there's not like the big international audience for Star Trek that those other things have, and it's not that type of property.
You look at the original movies, right? Like from Kirk right to the end of TNG with Nemesis. I consider those films like the legacy Trek films, right? And then you have the Kelvinverse, which is like a separate thing. And in today's society, we can always go back. Like Halloween can make the sequel to Halloween 1 after 5 other movies have been made, you know what I mean? And like they always do this with movies, like with soft reboots and stuff. So the Kelvin timeline happened fine. That's a separate timeline. It's Star Trek. We can live with that. But I think they should go back to legacy films, like actually make a sequel to Nemesis 20-something years later, Enterprise F, Odyssey Class.
Enterprise F, yes.
Worf is the captain, and I always wanted a Worf TV show, but because Michael Dorn recently talked about how the prosthetics were like one of the dark spots in his career, because he gave him a bad skin condition, and he was reluctant to come back for DS9 or even after TNG ended at all, because he didn't like that process, but they made it slightly easier for him. And he said in his recent interview that he didn't know if he'd come back at all. Like, it would have to be worth it for him, right? So, and he's recently starred in a movie. I haven't seen it, but it's like kind of an independent sci-fi movie, and you never see Michael Dorn in a starring role. And I think it would be great for his biggest starring role to be like the next captain of the Enterprise 20-something years later. Maybe he's retiring. It could even be one of these things where it's his last voyage, and he hands it off to the first officer at the end or something. Like, he doesn't have to stick around. Yeah, like his last hurrah, and the plot would involve a Klingon thing, so it would be like a personal thing for him, right?
J.G. Hertzler back.
Yes.
Yeah. That is kind of like the best part of Worf's story, is whenever you show kind of like that conflict of being torn between like the two worlds of like the Klingon and the Federation. And we never have really seen like Worf like in command. I think like the closest we get is in that Deep Space Nine episode. I think it's called Soldiers of the Empire, when he's the first officer on the Bird of Prey with Martok in command, and the rest of the crew is like, we don't know if Martok is a good captain. Worf, as first officer, it's going to be your duty to like kill him and take command of the ship. And Worf has to kind of struggle with like, do I do that or not? So when I think about that, I'm like, oh yeah, like there is like some dramatic potential like with this character that I would like to see fleshed out. It would be interesting. I think you would have to have like a first officer who's very like un-Worf like, just to kind of like balance it out and make it feel like more of like a typical Starfleet crew. But that would definitely be like a neat thing to explore.
A Romulan first officer.
Oh, because he hates the Romulans. Oh my god, yeah.
You would think he'd evolve to a point now in his career where that he wouldn't have that kind of prejudice.
Give him an arc. They have like a tiny little smidgen of that in Nemesis when he tells Riker, he's like, the Romulans did fight with honor, and Worf is like, yes they, or Riker's like, yes they did. So that was kind of a hint at something like that. Triangulum Audio Studios has a comment in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. And he says, I think he's the captain of the Enterprise E, and somehow I don't think he'd end up the captain of the F, rather handing the legacy to. Maybe that could be the movie. Maybe it's like the last voyage of the E and the rise of the F.
Yes, give it to me. Yes.
Yeah, that would be cool. That might be easier thing to do than creating this whole like Cardassian War trilogy that I was thinking of. I was also thinking like another thing they could do, because again, like I think like the movies, the theatrical movies, if they're going to go that route, should be something that's different from what you would do on TV. So I was thinking about what about some of these other time periods, like kind of like somewhere in the gap between Picard and Discovery season 3. Like I don't know, pick a number, 27, 28, 20, one of these future centuries. And you just set something there, and you could kind of have your own self-contained stories that don't really impact anything else. And you know, one thing that you could do it in a movie that you can't do on TV is something like the bigger budget special effects. So what if you did a story about like weird like space anomaly stuff, so like these really like trippy visuals, very like Stanley Kubrick 2001, like something's like warping space and it's like just like distorting like time and space and everything. And you have like this pair of people who they're kind of like the Sherlock and Watson of like weird science crazy stuff.
Okay.
And they're like they have to go on like these like missions to like try to like figure out, you know, these really weird problems that no one else can solve. You have like this duo who like goes to like try to like figure those things out and stop them. And you could do like a series of movies like that where each is like very much its own thing. It's like its own little independent story, but you could do like multiple movies.
Yeah, you could even do like the final mirror universe incursion and link that to that sort of story, which could be interesting.
Which was saying, yeah, about like when they the universes move too far apart.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
Dom, what about you have like any ideas for like what you think they could do for like the next Star Trek movie?
Ooh, I mean it's a very vague question, but I could see something maybe temporal war wise if we're talking about big budgets with crazy effects. But that would have to be written and handled very delicately because temporal stuff always messes things up.
You could do it though.
I think yeah, you could do it. Yeah, you definitely see like how the temporal wars ended. You could maybe get a Scott Bakula cameo, maybe finally discover who Mystery Man from Enterprise was.
Yes. I don't believe Brandon Braga that it was always supposed to be Archer. It's gonna be like Archer was his own enemy. I don't buy that.
Weird, but sure. But other than that, I think Romulan war-wise, or even bringing in like a new species we haven't seen, like the Zenkefi. They talked about wars with the Zenkefi,
right?
Which I would like to see. Star Trek Online showed what they looked like, and then the books showed a different version of what they looked like.
Yeah, and Star Trek Online, they're huge, right? They're like these giant creatures.
They're huge, four-armed creatures with like mech suits.
So that was my idea.
Yeah,
that was my idea for like the Cardassian War movie. Is you make like the Zenkethi War like part of that, and also you remember the aliens in the TNG episode Suddenly Human that had a war with the Federation.
Which ones were they?
They had like that human kid that they adopted.
Oh yeah,
and he's being returned to the Federation.
He's like a wolf and he howls and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
So what if like when the Cardassians are at war with the Federation, like those people, and then like the Zenkethi, like everyone else is like, this might be like our only opportunity to strike at the Federation.
He stabs Picard, doesn't he? Yeah, that's that episode.
Yeah, he's kind of a difficult kid.
He's kind of a dick.
Yeah, but you could also like even like use like the Romulans and like the Cardassian, like maybe like the Romulans are kind of like, you know, it's in the era when they're kind of hiding in their own little isolation. But when they see the Cardassians at war with the Federation, like the Romulans secretly go to like the Zenkethi and they're like, here are some weapons. If you want to attack the Federation right now, it'd be like a really good idea. Bye.
Yeah, that would be cool. Just some Romulan subterfuge. See some more of that. Yeah.
But I like the temporal war movie idea because that is some something you could do like a big budget is like create all these different time periods, all these different sets, all these different shoot on like all these different locations because if you're like jumping through time, have like different battles at like different times, but at like the same time.
You could do some very interesting effects with that. Ooh, like fights occurring during like time transits, so they're just appearing on different ships, fighting each other. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and you could like, if you want to go like the Easter egg route, like you could show like any era of Star Trek. Like you could put them on like K7 in like the original series era, like that bar in K7 where like the waitress is like serving them drinks.
Just CGI them into that fight, and they're just in the background.
Yeah. Have Chekhov like punching that Klingon guy in the background.
It's like in that Voyager episode, I can't remember the name, where Seven is chasing after Braxton, going throughout all the different times.
It's relativity, isn't it?
I think it's it's relativity. Yeah, that would be cool, just chasing someone throughout time on different ships, and people being like, "You're not meant to be here," and then just fixing it at the end.
Like some people complain about the time travel in Star Trek, like they do it too much.
Yeah.
But all of the best episodes are, or not all, but most of the best episodes are time travel. Like most people consider what the best episode of the original series. It's City on the Edge of Forever, right?
Yeah.
It's not that people
Piece of
complain about.
fiction,
I don't find that people complain too much about the quality of a lot of the good time travel episodes. It's just the mechanics of it never. You can't reconcile any of it. So if you watch every Star Trek TV show and movie and look at everything that has to do with time travel, there are like 1,012 temporal incursions throughout the entire span of it.
Also, with how casual time travel is in the original series, they're just like, we can do this whenever, and it's like,
and
okay.
they totally ignore things like the butterfly effect, and they think if they just don't let this one certain thing happen, everything else will work out the exact same way anyway. And it's like, look at First Contact. They create a temporal incursion, or them and the Borg, caused by the Borg.
And then Enterprise.
Enterprise picks up on that, so people are like, well, is Enterprise a different timeline than the original? Then
it's whether that ship was the one sent the message to the Borg ship, which they see in
it's a paradox.
TNG, and it's
well, it kind of explains why the Borg would have destroyed the neutral zone outpost in season 1 of The Next Generation, because that was like never really explained.
Yeah, you could reconcile it as that, but
look at Year of Hell. Look at how much they mess up time then. I mean, that's got to have repercussions, but from a writer's point of view, you can't really deal with all that nonsense.
Well, I used to always tell myself that you just have like the time cops in the future Federation, like they were just
they go around and fix everything, yeah.
But they go around and put that glass like 1 inch to the left, which causes everything to go okay.
But Discovery is like, oh, we don't do that anymore. Time travel's illegal. So it's like, oh well, there's no one like policing it anymore. So that's kind of
scary. And then it's just the question with if it did happen, whether it was meant. Yeah, if the time travel in the 27th to 30th century happened, will it still have happened and fixed everything? So it gets confusing.
Yeah. Blue Sparrow in the live chat has a comment. The next Star Trek film should involve Deep Space Nine for sure. Blue, I would absolutely love that. I love Deep Space Nine. It is my favorite show. And anything, a TV show, movie, whatever, anything that like rebuilds those sets. I just want like the promenade to be like built again. I just want to know like that set is like standing somewhere in the earth that like you can actually go to Quark's bar.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Sean Mattison has a good comment. If you could bring that up. There we go. Doomsday Machine.
Yeah, Sean says I would love to see a movie bringing back the Doomsday Machine, threatening all the Alpha powers. It was something that they kind of hint at in that episode, right? They're like, well, there might be more of these out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And Star Trek Online followed that up. I don't know if any of the novels or anything else ever.
I think the novels had to have followed that up. I'll check, but yeah.
Does anybody think that if Strange New Worlds, 3 seasons from now, 2024, is like considered the best Star Trek on TV in years and years. Like, it's not obviously not everybody would love it, but it's pretty much unanimous. It's not going to bring back the fandom together because everybody's going to be contrary about something.
Yeah.
But if it's like quality stuff, they could be like, hey, let's just put out a movie and see what happens. We spend $125 million for these 10 episodes anyway.
Yeah.
Well, but like, and realistically, make an hour and a half like good old action adventure, old school Enterprise Star Trek film with Pike, and that could work. But then, you know, maybe it's better as a series. I don't know. You definitely can't do Picard. You can't have Picard in a movie except in like as a supporting character because he's way too old. I think you need to utilize Michael Dorn while you can, and even like bring back O'Brien and Keiko. See what Molly's up to. Molly's an engineer on the Enterprise. There you go.
That's why I want them to do like some type of Deep Space Nine follow up.
Yeah, so Cisco's child of a child with I forgot her name.
Cassidy Yates.
Cassidy Yates. Yeah, just like let's see that.
Yeah, because that episode aired in '99, so that was 22 years ago. So he'd be like a grown man now. That would be that'd be a cool thing to see, and I kind of actually hope that they do some type of like something in the TV shows with Deep Space Nine. I don't know why I keep hoping for that, but I mean, you're not going to get Avery Brooks back, but you don't really need them because you know how Cisco's story ended. So you could probably get Armin Shimmerman back, so you could still have like Quark still at his bar, still have Morn sitting there at the bar.
I can't see them building sets unless it's going to be for multiple episodes in a TV show or an actual full-length film.
Just make it a TV show. Just make it like Deep Space Nine, like the Return to Deep Space Nine or something.
Yeah, that would be great, but they won't even remaster the old series. They have no interest in bringing it back.
Alex Kurtzman did say there's another live-action show that they're developing besides Section. He says like it's not Section 31. It's not Strange New Worlds. There's something else in addition to that. A new live-action show. This is like a long time ago when he said that, so who knows if that's still on the table or not. But
just go up to Michael Dorn's house, just dump the money on his lawn, and say, "Come back." And you know what? We talked about the idea of these actors who, like Octopus Head in Discovery, how they probably took her head off, or like the actual mask off in the last couple of episodes because maybe it was just too much. And the same thing with the first one. The first actor who played Arium had to stop doing it because it is a task. And even Doug Jones, there's a recent interview with Sci-Fi Fanatics where he talks about that process. I think those actors should get paid a little bit more because they go through a special kind of suffering.
Yeah, they have to sit in a chair for multiple hours.
Yeah, they have to like show up at like 4 a.m.
And that's only part of it. The skin,
that's only the beginning.
The irritation of it is just like, and the sweat underneath it. And
it's amazing some of these guys do that for like 26 episodes a year for 7 years. Like Ethan Phillips had to put on all that Neelix prosthetics every day. Every day he went to work for like 7 years.
There was that story about Rene who, at the in the final episodes just like tore off his mask and just shoved it in Ira Steven Behr.
He says he has that in his living room.
Pain.
But I think we're getting to a point now where they could completely replace it, but in the case of Dorn, if you're gonna do a movie where it's not like a series where you have to do it all the time, but every time he's on screen in a movie, just do a digital makeup job. I mean, look at what they do with the Marvel movies now with Captain America. That's like the best old age makeup you will ever see.
Yeah, because a lot of it was digital.
And they started that with Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
I was looking at that the first time I saw it, and I was just like, that's the best prosthetic makeup I've ever seen on an old age, doing an old age thing. And then I found out it was like digital. So it's like,
you thought it looked better than the Dudley years on the original series when everyone started turning old?
that was still looked bad in the 80s with the TNG when Pulaski was getting all melty.
Or what about
Remember that episode?
when McCoy shows up and Encounter at Farpoint? I thought that looked pretty good for the 80s.
That wasn't bad. They
considering he
didn't
was like
do any close-ups.
120 or something.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
but he didn't look a day over 95.
I think if you're going to bring back these old actors who are getting in their 70s now and you want to put them back into makeup, just save them the trouble and just do it digitally. And do a test, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But, I mean, come on, man. We're getting to that point now where we're getting pretty good at that stuff.
It would be easier to do like the big budget CGI stuff in a movie than on a TV show where, you're only going to do like a 2-hour movie, not like a 10-hour long season where you would need like a lot more footage of these people.
And all you're doing is putting a stationary CG object on the person. You have the dots or whatever on the actor's face. Mm-hmm. And I know it's not easy, but it's a lot easier than animating something like that's like got tentacles and moving around or something, trying to make that photorealistic.
Yeah.
Look at what Snapchat filters and all this crap can do, and that's just like basic technology.
You just turn on like the Klingon filter, and it turns Michael Dorn into a Klingon.
Yeah,
I pay for that.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That's one thing you mentioned about like these actors getting older. That's one thing that's kind of unique to Star Trek. Is that in a lot of these like franchises that span for like years and years, how like James Bond, they'll always like recast James Bond and like a lot of times like they never really try to like show like characters aging, but Star Trek has never been ashamed of that. Star Trek going all the way back to like really with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where like a big part of that movie is like Kirk, grappling with like the fact that he's getting older. Star Trek's always embraced the fact that like, yeah, like our characters do get old. And now like Picard's like an entire TV show about that.
Yeah.
But you always need those young, sexy cast members in the background to keep everything balanced so people don't get too bored.
Well, that's Hollywood for you. Like,
yeah.
People like to look at like good-looking people on screen, I guess.
Look at the first season of TNG. Even the older actors, like, they were all in the best shape of their life. They looked the best they're ever going to look. And then they aged from then on. But, I mean, some people like Marina Sirtis got better with age, I think.
Like a fine wine.
Like a fine wine. Like a from Chateau Picard or something. I don't even know what his wine is called.
It's just Chateau Picard.
Well, people also like age better now than like a few decades ago. Like a lot of like these actors spend like a lot of money and like their face, like maintaining their looks. It's like part of their career. It's like part of like how they get jobs. So, like Jerry Ryan on Picard looks amazing for her age. Like she doesn't look that different than how she looked in Voyager.
Yes, sometimes you get like these women who are like grandmothers, and it's like they're fine as hell. Like, oh fuck. I mean, but that's the thing. I always thought, like in the future with these shows, that people would age much slower, like that you'd live much better. But it seems like everybody on a starship in the Star Trek universe ages just like people do now, and I think that's due to a lot to stress. I think if you live on a ship, like you could have a twin brother on Earth who's living like the good life, who doesn't really have to worry about dying in a ship every day,
just drinking wine and eating soul food.
And you go back and you're like, you look 10 years older than he does.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it might be a stressful life, but I don't know. These people don't seem like they're always stressed all the time. They go on the holodeck and have like you play video games on the holodeck, basically.
I know, but you look at every episode, they're always in a life or death situation. They're always thinking about like, I could die today. It's always in the back of their head. Remember, Discovery actually deals with the PTSD.
Yeah, that's true. I had the comment on screen earlier. I'm scrolling back up to see if I could find it, but Robbie in the chat said that here it is. He would hope that Discovery or Lower Decks have films after they are finished. I don't know if they'll return to that format. Like after TNG wrapped, they started doing TNG movies.
I could see them doing a movie in like where Discovery is now. I could also, I think I would really actually like a Lower Deck style movie. Uh, yeah, because their movie episode, was it Crisis Point?
Crisis Point, yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
that was one of my favorite episodes. So if they do a movie themselves, which isn't just like this is a Trek movie, it's just this is a Lower Decks movie, I think that would work really well.
I think now that Trek is currently in the live action and animated business, I think Lower Decks would be a great theatrical film because look at they've done Teen Titans, the goddamn movie. They're coming out with
I want to see that.
Bob's Burgers, the movie, and I don't get that. I don't get that show at all. I just don't get it. I'm like they're making a film that's going to be in theaters apparently.
Makes money.
There you go.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force had a theatrical movie.
There you go.
See that. There's
But
like 8 people there in the theater.
I can totally see Lower Decks having like a movie that wouldn't do well and would probably be like a modestly budgeted thing, but yeah. Discovery, no chance. No chance Discovery will ever turn into a film. I can see somehow maybe characters from the show being in a film somehow, but I don't know.
You don't think there's ever going to be Discovery, the motion picture?
And I don't think there will be a Picard movie either. However, I do think Seven, as she is now, could show up in a, like I said earlier, like a sequel to Nemesis 20-something years later.
Or like a Fenris Rangers movie?
Well, I think that's actually...
as a supporting character that they run into.
Okay, yeah.
She was supposed to show up in Nemesis, and they couldn't get her because she was doing that TV show, Boston Public, I think, where she's like a teacher in a high school or something.
Yeah.
And so they went with Kate Mulgrew, which made more sense.
Made more sense. Yeah.
She was just so popular back, like when they put 7 of 9 on Voyager. She was like on like the cover of like TV Guide and like all like every, because I mean they had her in like that sexy cat suit, which is ridiculous, looking back at it now, but. That character is like so popular, and they created T'Pol on Enterprise to be like the new 7 of 9, and I feel like that character is very like underdeveloped initially. Manny Koto tried to redeem her in season 4, but
it's a big sore point in Into Darkness, that Alice Eve scene where she's just like Kirk's peeking at her with her underwear on, which is like them trying to be fast and furious and like hip and young and saying F you to anybody who has a brain.
Yeah, that's like they hired her simply because like she looked good in her underwear. I think is like why they had like this woman with like an English accent to play like and that's another thing is like, isn't it like pretty easy for a lot of actors to do like an American accent, like I guess like she couldn't. I mean, I don't know, maybe she's done other stuff.
She has done she's been in movies where she does an American accent. So I don't know why they changed it there.
But yeah, the Zizon girl likes the Fenris Ranger idea. But I think that's actually that other TV show that Alex Kurtzman has teased. I think it might be like a Fenris Ranger show. That seems like something that like they...
It seems like an idea they put out.
Tradition of Star Trek creators would want to do.
Yeah. Can I just say how much I hate the name Fenris Rangers? I can't get over it. Every time I hear it, it sounds so corny.
Why is it called that? Yeah.
And other people have said this too. It sounds like a spin-off of the Power Rangers or something.
Go, Fenris Rangers.
I think a great title for a 7 of 9 centric Star Trek show, be it her involvement with the Fenris Rangers or whatever else, Star Trek 7.
That's a good title, actually.
That's confusing because it's like, what wasn't Star Trek Generations Star Trek 7?
No, you wouldn't call. No, well, nobody calls it 7, but I'm talking about like 7, her name spelled out.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. STS, it's sexy. I'm sorry, that's misogynist. It's a misogynist attitude.
But would it work if it's not the 7th Star Trek series?
I don't even know what number are we on? How many? There's the
Well, not
original
very well.
series, the animated series, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks.
That'd be the 10th.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not like when they announced Star Trek Deep Space Nine, everybody was like, "Where's Deep
Oh, it's
Space
the
at 1 through 8?"
No, that's an interesting thing to bring up.
It's not gonna confuse people.
Yeah. It would just
Speaking
be
of Deep
cooler.
Space Nine, though, a lot of I've heard like Garrett Wong, who played Harry Kim on Voyager, and like some other people talk about how they kind of felt like a little cheated that there was never a Deep Space Nine or Voyager movie, and that was an idea that the dude who wrote Star Trek Nemesis, I can't remember the name of that writer right now,
Stuart Baird.
No, that was the director. The writer
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
I know.
John Logan or something like that. He also wrote like Any Given Sunday, and I think Gladiator. But anyways, he had an idea for a Nemesis sequel that would have been kind of like the big crossover team up that would have had Deep Space Nine people, Voyager people, and Next Generation people like all together. And it would have been like the Enterprise, the Defiant, the Titan, and the Voyager like all go on like a mission together.
That would be a lot of sets to build.
A lot.
Well, I'm sure there's reasons why they didn't make it. Mainly because like Nemesis didn't make a lot of money.
Too well.
It was a huge missed opportunity in the 90s when they got into the Next Generation films. It's like after First Contact, they had a hint of DS9 in that, right? So like my thought at the time was like, okay, we're just going to get into either continuing TNG with more DS9 or Voyager cameos. But at the time, Voyager was still in the Delta Quadrant, so. But like thinking that they would somehow go into DS9 and Voyager, and Voyager was kind of like, I didn't care too much if they made a Voyager movie, but I still wanted characters from the show to somehow be in a TNG movie or a Deep Space Nine movie. But I never could think of how a Deep Space Nine movie could work. But it was a huge missed opportunity not to have like Sisko and Worf be on the bridge of the Enterprise while Picard was dealing with stuff on the lower decks, and like Riker was down on the planet in that movie. That would have been just awesome to have just Avery Brooks and Worf together, not for certain sections of the movie, but like build on it, and then you get like the sequel to First Contact. You would have like 7 of 9 come over or something. But they never did that, and they could have utilized the sets that they already had built. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have had a TNG movie where they stopped over just arbitrarily, even at DS9, and just to have it on film for a couple of minutes. But yeah.
It's a Small World in the chat is on board with a Deep Space Nine movie. Triangulum Audio Studios. He's oops, here it is. He's quoting Picard, Mr. Worf, what the hell are you doing here in Insurrection? But yeah, that's the funny thing about like good for Michael Dorn. They always kept bringing him back for the movies. But yeah, you have First Contact. It worked in First Contact. It was like a very organic. It was like the Defiant was part of this fleet to attack the cube. Worf was in command. Okay, I'm not sure why like O'Brien or Dax or Bashir, no one else was on board the Defiant, but okay. And then in Insurrection, yes, it's like Mr. Worf, what the hell are you doing here? And then in Star Trek Nemesis, when Worf is supposed to be like off being the ambassador, not even in Starfleet anymore, he's supposed to be like Klingon ambassador.
In Starfleet.
They just don't even explain it. They just don't even address. He's just there.
Yeah, like it makes sense he's at the wedding.
But he's like on the ship with them. He's like at the tactical station.
Well, I mean, wasn't the ship heading to Beta Z for a wedding? They
were going to do another ceremony. It was like going to be like 2 ceremonies.
So it makes sense. It's just it would have been nice if he was in like diplomatic outfit. It would have been weird to see.
Yeah, there's a deleted line of dialogue that explained that like he felt like the life of a diplomat wasn't for him, and he re-enlisted into Starfleet. But they cut that out of the movie. They trimmed a lot of stuff out of that movie because Rick Berman had this idea that didn't work, but it was coming out the same time as like the Lord of the Ring movie, The Two Towers, back in 2002. So Rick Berman thought that movie was going to be like 3.5 hours long or whatever. So he thought like Star Trek Nemesis should be trimmed down and be like a very, very short movie, as short as we can make it. And that way it'll be playing so many more times in the theater that people who couldn't get a ticket to see Lord of the Rings because it was sold out, they'd be like, oh, look, well, Star Trek Nemesis is going to start in like 20 minutes. I guess I'll go see that movie instead. And he thought like it would make its money that way.
Okay. That's an interesting thought, but
yeah, but he wasn't very good at like the movie side of stuff. Rick Berman was much better at like getting the TV shows to be successful. You know, he had 3 7-year TV shows, and then Enterprise is kind of like the one people kind of think about as like one that didn't really succeed, but it still had 4 seasons. So that's very impressive.
In a different time, yeah.
I had kind of a weird idea for another Worf kind of like film, but like as a bottle episode, and it would be like a kind of loose remake of Starship Mine called Worf Hard, and radical Christians take over the Enterprise, and the leader is Santa Claus, and at the end Worf kills him and says, "I am not a merry man." You just get all those one. You just all for that one line at the end. What about it's his version of Yippee Ki-Yay?
What about assimilate this? That's
such a corny line, man.
It's good. It's good, but it's corny. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like I was always like a big Spock fan. Like Spock was my favorite Star Trek character, and I think that was the moment in 1996 watching that on screen when Worf says assimilate this and he blows up that deflector dish. I turned from like Spock being my favorite to Worf being my favorite.
Wow.
This is like converted me.
I love the moments they give Worf in First Contact. Prepare for ramming speed. This is a good day to die. Assimilate this. If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand. Like it's just fucking classic.
That exchange between him and when Picard's like calling him like a coward. He's like, "You want to blow up the ship and run away." And, yeah, Michael Dorn played that like he's like so like angry. You're like, oh yeah, like he's thinking about like snapping Patrick Stewart's neck right now.
It really makes you ashamed that he couldn't express his with his eyebrows. They gotta find a way to do the Klingon makeup where they can move their eyebrows somehow.
There was something that they kind of that I think Ron Moore writing First Contact carried over from Deep Space Nine, because like the Worf on Deep Space Nine is a lot more badass than the Worf on Next Generation. They kind of like have a lot of jokes in the Next Generation about like kind of like undercutting Worf here and there, and they to show like other things are like powerful or deadly. They'd be like, okay, well let it go beat up Worf, or like if it hurts Worf, you know it's like something really dangerous.
Yeah, it just means that Worf gets beat up.
Yeah. They kind of turn him back in the TNG Worf for like a little bit in First Contact when like he's like. They kind of make fun of him for like getting sick at his stomach, going like on the spacewalk, and Michael Dorn is like playing it like a little comical, but overall like he's kind of more of the Deep Space Nine badass Worf in that movie.
Yeah, even in what was it, Insurrection, he has a rocket launcher, and then doesn't he use it as a baseball bat?
Oh yeah, he swings at it with those drones. Yeah, that was drone use before like drones were like the common thing they are now. You know, like now drones are like not only in real life but in like a lot of our pop culture.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we have like the I don't know if that's like the all-seeing eye or what. I'm looking at what people.
I am the Eye of Saru.
Which
obey my every command.
We could get some, in terms of other movie ideas, more Kaminar stuff would be cool. I think, considering just seeing them with the Baul joining forces. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Because we know they ally each other and become the Baul Kelpian Alliance or whatever.
Yeah, and then enter the Federation as like as a united race.
Yeah,
I would be curious to see like more of the kind of the future history of Kaminar. Like what's going on at Kaminar like during the time of like TNG, you know, like when do they exactly like because in season 2 of Discovery, like Saru's sister shows up on those Baul ships. She's like, oh, we have like warp travel now. We went
We
from
solved
being
it.
like from primitive to having like warp capabilities like overnight.
Oh my God! You just gave me an idea. You know, when in Discovery where you saw that guy Yor, and he has
Yes.
that TNG. It's
Season 1.
TNG, but from the Kelvin universe. So
No, wasn't that just him being a temporal soldier and being sent back?
That's kind of what I assumed, but
That's
I mean,
why.
we don't know. It's ambiguous.
I look at it like Kelvin can have slightly different uniforms. Like they wouldn't exactly match up in the exact same decade. Say like
Considering that they said he jumped over from 2378 in the Kelvin universe to the Prime universe.
so, yeah, like the Kelvin uniforms would be like season 1 TNG and Prime, but you know what I mean? Like they'd be like 10 years behind or something. Like you look at 2009, the Enterprise is a different Enterprise. It's but you could do a cheap movie cast wise if you have complete unknowns on like a, I don't know, name your class of starship during the TNG season 3 era, say, and have it like totally match the aesthetic of that time, but like spice it up a bit, but don't mess with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And have an actual TNG era movie with a completely separate ship that deals with, you know, a familiar alien Cardassians or something we haven't seen in a movie before.
Yeah, so Cardassian idea would be
yeah, that would
cool
be
with that.
dealing with the Cardassians and the Bajorans somehow and getting caught in the middle of it or something like that. You see a young Kira Nerys or Kira Nerys before DS9.
You should probably
I've
even
always wanted to see that.
Bajorans, if you have to recast. But like, was it Ensign Sito, the one who dies in Lower Decks?
Oh yeah, and the Lower Decks episode of Next Generation. That they always thought about bringing her back on Deep Space Nine, but they never got around to it.
Wasn't that Ro Lauren, or you're talking about Sito because didn't
Ro
Sito
also,
die?
but you know, Sito. Like they wanted to be like, oh, she didn't actually die.
Okay.
Because like you never see the body. It's just
Yeah.
it's like the report that like the torpedo or escape pod or whatever she was like launched on like got blown up. They like intercepted like a Cardassian communication. So the idea would be like, well, she didn't actually die and she was actually captured. But they never did that. But she was already like a recurring character because she was also in The First Duty with Wesley Crusher at the Academy.
And not Tom Paris.
Yeah, and
Nick Locano.
Yeah, good old Nick. I like Robert Duncan McNeil's explanation on that, where he says like they're actually very different characters because Nick was a guy who was kind of scummy, kind of like put his own interest ahead of everyone else until like the very end, and would kind of try to pretend to be like this really nice, caring guy who is like, "Hey, don't worry, I got your back." But he's actually more selfish. Tom Paris is the other way around. Where like early Tom Paris, like season 1 of Voyager, he's actually like a good guy on the inside, but he tries to present himself as very like flippant and like not really caring. But he actually does care.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some people kind of, I hear some people say like, oh, I wish that they were like the same character by name. And Robert Duncan McNeil like explains like
makes sense.
They're actually played differently. But yeah, I'd like to see like some Voyager people. Like I kind of get like Garrett Wong's complaint about like we never got to do our movie, so like I wouldn't want to give it a shot.
Ensign Kim. Still Ensign.
I don't care if it's on a TV show or a movie or what, but I do want to see like Captain Harry Kelm someday. Like I need to know that he eventually got promoted.
We could see that in wait, no. When did Voyager come back to the Alpha Quadrant? Was it
2377, I think.
7? Could he become captain well, he could actually by the time of Lower Decks. That would be cool. And then he was the captain of the Rhode Island in the alternate timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that'd be something.
Yeah, I love that that Nova class design. It's a beautiful ship. I wish that Voyager actually looked like the Nova class instead of the Intrepid class.
Really?
I like the Intrepid class from some angles, but not from others. I love that Nova and Prometheus, like a lot of stuff that like Rick Sternbach was designing at that time period. I love, but not the one that was like the main hero ship on the show. Unfortunately,
Mm.
It's a Small World says I love to see a movie with Admiral Vance. That'd be interesting. There's some backstory with him. I mean, there's obviously some stuff going on with like
He left his family.
yeah, that like at some point like his he said it was like dangerous and like his it wasn't safe for his family there anymore. So what was going on? Was there like some big battle or something?
Mm. Yeah, and he talked a lot about how he's made some bad decisions in his time, giving advice to Saru. So we could see some interesting
he's telling
political
Saru
side
about like how it was important to like save Georgia. So that would kind of suggest that maybe he has like some guilt, like maybe he messed up at one point and like got someone killed.
Well, he's probably got a lot of people killed being the admiral in that situation.
Vance is he's like a real popular character right now. Like a lot of people have like really connected to him.
There's a reason why I called him the Dadmiral.
I know. I was always like, no, like the Dadmiral is Mariner's dad that we see in the first episode of Lower Decks.
You're being too literal.
I know.
But now Vance is a dad, so he can be Dadmiral in both senses.
Yeah, he has a kid who does math with pictures instead of numbers.
Yeah.
Robbie is asking a Romulan war film. Yeah, Robbie, we were talking about that. I don't know if you know about this or if anyone in the audience is familiar with it, but it was back when Rick Berman was still in charge of Star Trek. Enterprise had just been canceled, and there was an idea of doing like a trilogy of Romulan war movies. It would have been set like shortly after Enterprise, but it wouldn't have been that crew. It would have been new characters. I think like the NXO one would like cameo in it at some point. It was going to be this new group.
Would it be the Columbia with Erica Hernandez?
I think the Columbia was actually like a big part of it.
Yeah.
The kind of like I don't know if they ever like scripted any of these movies, but there is kind of like a general outline that they pitched to Paramount, and Paramount turned it down. But all of that leaked by ain'titcoolnews.com like years and years ago. It was something that like I was following because I was very curious about seeing that, and they said tonally this movie or trilogy of movies would be like a little bit more like Deep Space Nine, which hey, Deep Space Nine is my jam, so I'm all for that.
What if they then do that now? What I would really like to see is the main character be Balthazar Edison.
Yes.
The Mako who gets disillusioned at the end because Balthazar Edison is cool. You can bring Idris Elba back, or because
Idris, he's such a brilliant actor, and I think that movie did him so wrong.
Yeah, he was wasted as Kroll. Even though I love Kroll, but Balthazar Edison, I love him, and I would like to see, we can see the Franklin again, that type of ship. Actually somehow explain how it's the 322nd ship in Starfleet.
I have a headcanon explanation for that.
Which is?
Okay, well, it was the first Warp 4 ship, so it predates the NX-01.
Yeah.
But when they go in like the Romulan War, like they pull like their old ships back into action. And it was like given like a new registry number either then or a few years later when the Federation forms in 2161.
Yeah.
And they become explorers instead of soldiers. When that happens, they like give like new registry numbers to everyone.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you're an explorer now. Here's your ship. It has an NCC on it. Go explore.
Go and crash on a planet, and we'll see you later. I just want to see a prime Balthazar Edison Like, how does the Kelvin universe change him in that way? Because
Yeah.
it happened before the incursion, so he would still be crashed on that planet on Altamid. But like, would the Federation have expanded back quickly to where Altamid was? Would it have already found them? There's some interesting stories you could do that. You could do a movie which is just Star Trek Beyond 2. It's in the prime timeline. And you can have Kral again, but because of how the Federation is in the prime compared to Kelvin, the outcome could be massively different. Yorktown might not even be there. It could actually be like, there could be a planet they have a base on, or crazy stuff. You could show a lot of cool stuff.
And Robbie also says, it's a shame the Enterprise cast didn't get 7 seasons because what a great cast. Robbie, I agree. That was a show that I kind of struggled with. And it really like found, what it needed to do in season 4, and then they pulled the plug on it. I remember coming off of like season 3 of Enterprise, and there was a lot of talk about like this next season will probably be the last season. They're moving it to Friday night on UPN, and they call it like the Friday night kill slot. Like shows go to Friday night to die, to get canceled. Back in when this was on the air, and I was thinking like, yeah, they probably should cancel it. I don't know if like the show is like that interesting. Like maybe they could do like a different Star Trek show after this that I would like a little bit more. And then Manny Kodo came on as the head writer for season 4, and I loved that 4th season so much that when they did get to the end of the season, they confirmed like this is going to be the end of it. I was like, no, I want more Enterprise so bad, damn it.
Isn't it funny how Friday night used to be the death slot, and now it's one of the biggest nights for new shows, new movies. Like Friday is the day.
Like Netflix
right?
drops new
Disney
seasons
Plus
on Fridays.
Amazon Prime does the same thing. Like, well, they usually do like Thursday night, but yeah,
because they know like you can like binge it, during the weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about your posters, Dom.
Yes, I just posted it in chat saying they're from Stellar Cartography by Larry Nemeczek.
Today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Larry.
Oh, is it? Happy birthday. Your posters are amazing.
Happy birthday.
He's going to be appearing on the next Tex-Trek podcast, which will be released on February 4th. We're going to be talking about the state of the Star Trek franchise right now, coming off of 2020 and going into 2021.
And he's going to say something like, you have what you got, deal with it, forget the past. No. But he has a very level-headed attitude about how he interprets new Trek versus old. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he talks a lot when I haven't interviewed him, but like Sean did and other people.
Yeah.
And he just talks and talks and talks, and he's just like a fountain of knowledge.
He is so knowledgeable. He is one of like the most informed people of.
He's he's a Trek-spert.
I know. Yeah. I know a good bit about Star Trek. I think like I'm not like tooting my own horn too much saying that, am I? Like I know a thing or two, but like Larry knows so much behind the scenes information. I'm so glad that we have this like Star Trek historian who keeps track of everything and goes and like looks up all of the old documentation and stuff that he's able to find. And I just sent you a picture, but hold on, I'm gonna share this. I think as a little tribute to Larry. I saw this on online earlier, and I knew I had to share it. Bear with me just a second. This is gonna be a good way to like close out the stream. So if you have like any final ideas or anything for like anything that you want to comment on.
Yeah, I just have one idea which I just want to throw out, which is, where is it? That way. Folians. I want to see more Folians. However you could bring them in, I don't care. Just whether it's a movie or just an episode of like Strange New Worlds or whatever, I want to see more Folians because they're cool. You could do a lot of stuff with movie budget. I would even say like the Enterprise Folians looked pretty good. So yeah, that's just my final idea.
No, that's like another thing that you could do on like a big budget.
Yeah.
I think they should remake Into Darkness and have Johnny Depp play Khan. There you go. because they have, well, here's the thing, they have so much potential and so much canon to mine from. I mean, they could just do any number of things we've discussed in this past hour are viable. You know what I mean? Like, but if I were to think the most likely first film to ever drop in theaters before any live action, I think Lower Decks probably has the best chance, just because.
Really?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I've seen these obscure shows that get theatrical. Like, I didn't know anything about Teen Titans. Then I watched the movie. I'm like, I gotta check this show out because this is kind of bizarre and fun to watch. And the show's not as good as the movie, though. The movie was actually a step up. So
yeah.
The
movie is actually pretty smart. Like some of the jokes in there, like the commentary on like DC movies is pretty hilarious.
It's there's an intelligence under all the absurdity there. Yeah. Same thing with Bob's Burgers. Like, I don't like the show, but I'm like, well, I'll see what the movie is like because usually the movie is a step up. But
cool. Well, I think we're going to have to go ahead and sign off there. But thank you, everyone in the audience who joined us. I was doing this as kind of an experiment just to see if, I did this little casual afternoon stream, if anyone would check it out. And I had a pretty good time. Thank you both PJ and Dom for joining me. I think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we might do more stuff like this going forward. I don't know what would be like another good topic, like maybe like ideas. I got a good one. Ideas for Discovery season 4. I think everyone probably can come up with some cool stuff.
You could do those same things for like Lower Decks, Picard.
Yeah, that's a lot of content.
A lot of good stuff to talk about.
I think when Picard starts filming, and Strange New Worlds is the next one to start filming.
Yes.
In the spring months, we'll probably get more information about upcoming things, like when
casting news
and stuff like that, and Paramount Plus is going to be coming out at some point.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're going to have some big announcements or just like some kind of hype, and it's definitely going to involve Trek somehow. We might find out what that secret show is, that live action show.
Yeah, that other one that's in development,
starring Michael Dorn. But anyway, yeah, sorry.
We can wait.
Pay him $10 million per episode.
It would be worth it.
Cool. Well, everyone should follow PJ and Dom on Twitter, and you can catch both of them contributing to PJ on Boat Wreck, and Dom, you do a lot of stuff for Trek Central.
Yep. It's pretty. Yeah.
And the next Tex-Trek podcast will be premiering on YouTube Friday, February 4th. So everyone should check that out if you want to hear Larry talk about just what's going on with the state of the franchise now. We're going to have 4 guests in the month of February. So every Friday there's going to be a new podcast with a new guest, and those will be on YouTube and also as available as an audio-only podcast wherever you get your podcast from. So check that out.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.